Hey guys, welcome back. We have a Scorpio full moon that we are going to be talking about today. This is a very karmic moon. Pretty much also like every planet out there is making an aspect. It's probably going to be a very busy week, probably a lot happening, a lot going on. And I do think that we are moving through a week right now that is kind of being initiated with this full moon energy where there could be some very interesting like twists of fate, turns of events, unexpected or sudden changes happening that bring in maybe like a missing piece to something that, I don't know, helps us to begin moving forward in some direction. There's also a highly creative energy infused in our full moon and really all week. Venus and Mars are the rulers of Taurus and Scorpio, where this full moon polarity is aligning, and they're also in a trine aspect to one another. While Venus is in Mars's sign and Mars is in Leo, ruled by the sun, but the sun is in the sign of Taurus, which is Venus's sign. So there's really all of these harmonious connections going on between Mars and Venus as we have this full moon featuring the polarities of Mars and Venus aligning for us to open our week this week as well. The full moon is occurring on Monday, May 12th, 2025, 16:56 Universal Time, 12:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's happening at 22 degrees and 12 minutes of the sign of Scorpio, where the moon is, Taurus, where the sun is. Of course, whenever we have a full moon going on, this represents the polar opposition, the exact oppositional alignment between the sun and the moon. And so, you know, it's happening. The sun is in Taurus right now. Therefore, the moon is in the sign of Scorpio. And that is where our full moon is aligning. As I said, 22 degrees. That's very synchronistic to me also, considering some of the aspects that are playing out with our full moon and also this Venus-Mars dynamic. I wouldn't be surprised, you guys. Like, there is something either like significant or special or divinely aligned about the nature of connections that are coming in today on Monday with this full moon over throughout the course of this week, and also this weekend next week, as the full moon really represents the final 2 weeks of any lunar cycle. We are at our midpoint in our Taurus lunar cycle as the full moon in Scorpio comes in. Of course, as I said, the sun transiting through the sign of Taurus, opposing the moon, who is in the sign of Scorpio. And then this next 2 weeks, as we wane out of our Taurus new moon cycle, head towards our Gemini new moon cycle, is really kind of like ruled by the energy that is present for this full moon that we have coming into alignment on Monday to get our week started. And, you know, not just because it's a Monday, not just because it's a full moon, it's kind of like the combination of all of these things and also the aspects involved. And of course, we're going to be talking about all of these aspects in this report for today. There's a lot of information. There's a lot to talk about. We have a lot to get into, but I do think that this energy that we have present on Monday is going to be quite definitive of just the greater nature of the week itself. As the week continues to unfold, some of the transits and aspects that are present for our full moon are going to continue to come into closer alignment actually as we move throughout the course of the week. So things are being initiated on Monday, you guys, that could just like continue to maybe like expand or connect or snowball or, I don't know, come into fruition somehow as we move throughout the course of the week. But that is okay. All that being said, I guess that's sort of my intro to this report. Lots to talk about, lots going on. The full moon is making, like, itself is making a couple interesting aspects, and then like literally pretty much every planet out there is an aspect to another planet some way, somehow in this nice little chart that we have going on for our full moon. Very karmic, very like things being put a certain way as a result of some type of like higher cosmic order in my perception. Uranus is very strongly featured. The nodes of the moon are very strongly featured. We also have quite a like profoundly, I would say, healing and transformative and perhaps even enlightening dynamic of things going on as well. We have a strong plutonic vibe. This is a black moon, full moon. The black moon is currently transiting the sign of Scorpio. This is a Scorpio full moon. Therefore, the full moon is aligned with, activating, resonating with a lot of the black moon dynamics that we've got going on right now as well. Whenever the moon is transiting the sign where the black moon is, or the sign opposing the black moon, that is when we have the black moon activated in whatever given sign that it's in. So we've been moving through black moon energy this past couple of days as the moon has been transiting through the sign of Scorpio. If you guys watched my last video, I talked about how we had some black moon energy going on over the weekend. Black moon energy can trigger fears, worries, insecurities, doubts. That obviously has to do with our shadow side issues. And since this full moon is also happening in the sign of Scorpio, of course, you know, as I said, therefore, again, we've got a black moon, full moon going on. So this is a time when people could be emotionally triggered. It is a very, very emotional full moon. It's also a, I think, like highly spiritual full moon. There could be some strange spiritual phenomenon, spiritual experiences, unexplainable like events or circumstances or situations that seem like only possible through the intervention of a higher power. Like divine intervention could be a thing here. And really, I think, you know, it's kind of hard to say because there is a lot of like darkness that is being represented here as well. Uranus is exactly conjunct Algol, which is a quite notorious fixed star that can have some negative connotations. We'll talk about that. And, you know, as I said, we do have this black moon energy going on. This is a Scorpio full moon. We also have an exact Mercury-Pluto square that is present for our full moon energy. So there is, you know, a level of darkness, I would say, that is kind of saturating the greater energetic dynamic right now. But I'm perceiving this also as there being like an element of magic somehow that is like incorporated in this, or things maybe like having a little bit of that feel to it. And I do think also that a lot of this darkness perhaps is representing in the context of what we are overcoming, what we are like slaying the demon within, you know what I mean? Like, yes, the darkness is coming up, but in a way maybe that we are gaining actually a greater awareness of it, that is somehow empowering us or liberating us to no longer, you know, be controlled by it or be susceptible to it, or, you know, have it play maybe as much of a role in our lives as maybe it did at times in the past. So overcoming, I would say, a level of our own darkness, or I don't know, maybe something along those lines, maybe things happening on a more collective level that are representative of those types of themes as well could be going on here. So, you know, we've got Uranus, we've got the nodes, we've got Pluto, we've also got a very strong Chiron emphasis going on. Mercury is actually at the Chiron point, the point in the sky where Chiron was discovered, in the square to Pluto for our full moon. Chiron is also in a real tight sextile to Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, who is squaring the nodes very tightly. Jupiter and the nodes are coming into a square throughout the course of this week as well, which to me also represents like some sudden like twist or turn in fate or fortune, or, you know, things aligning. One thing that we do need to be careful with though, as we move through this energy, you know, on one hand, you know, and again, this is coming through a couple of different ways, right? We're dealing with a Scorpio full moon. Full moons obviously are an energetic high point, an energetic climax each month when the moon representing our emotional energy is at its max capacity. And in the sign of Scorpio, of course, this is already, you know, an intense, perhaps like volatile energy. It can be, you know, quite like obsessive and possessive about its stuff. And with this Jupiter square also present and building this week, with the nodes of the moon, this be careful. What I'm trying to say is be careful overdoing it like on an impulse, especially with Uranus there, over all types of stuff, over investing, over committing. Just like Jupiter is this very, very expansive, optimistic, broad-minded, like visionary, liberation, you know, I can do it all oriented energy, especially in the sign of Gemini where Jupiter's in detriment. The square to the north node and the south node, this can make us feel quite limitless. We can feel like there's like truly no boundaries to what we're capable of. And to be quite honest with you guys, in this energy, as it is present, like that's not false. Like, that's actually, you know, pretty accurate. I do think that, you know, a lot of people, unless your chart is like being activated to the contrary, are going to find themselves having more energy and more faith in themselves to be able to do more, to accomplish more, more of an open mind to what is possible. So the problem there is that, like, while in this energy, we may feel like it is quite realistic. Once this energy passes, perhaps, we're not going to find ourselves with the ability to maybe like follow through on some of what we got ourselves involved in an energetic dynamic like this. So to me, the best way to deal with that is to understand, you know, while we may feel quite an inflated sense of what is possible and what we're capable of in this energy, and in this energy we may actually be able to perform and follow through on that, I feel like this energy honestly is more about what's going on in the moment than about some type of permanency, some type of like fixedness, or, you know, what's happening now to become like a fixture like that endures, like moving into some future. To me, this energy is like a code being activated, like a certain light sequence or something like that coming on, and like because all the right pieces are in the right places at this point in time, it like unlocks something that like allows other things to happen. I feel like there's a tremendous amount of divine alignment that is expressing itself to me in terms of the way that universe is communicating via the astrology in the context of this full moon, but very little about this energy to me is speaking to the things that are happening now being meant to be forever. I think that the things that are happening now, this is a very in the moment type of energy. Like, enjoy it in the moment, take it for what it is in the moment, but don't set an expectation to attach to it as though this is something that is going to sustain and persist and become like a permanent feature of like whatever's going on. But that does not undercut the significance, the like purposefulness, and like really, again, I think the divine alignment factor of how all of this is coming together. This is a highly, highly, highly magnetic moon. The Venus and Mars element here, as I said, you know, whenever we have a Taurus Scorpio polarity being highlighted, whether it's during Scorpio season or during Taurus season, when the moon is in the sign of Mars and the sun is in the sign of Venus, or, you know, vice versa, it is going to emphasize obviously the masculine and the feminine dynamic. This is going to be a very creative time of year, just generally, generically, inherently. But with both of those planets also in the trine aspect to each other, you guys, that is like a divine harmonization of either the masculine and feminine dynamic within us that allows us to be extremely creative and productive during this period of time, or, you know, literally like the masculine and feminine dynamic of like events or situations, or even like people coming together in a way that is of this more like soulmate, soul connection, divine alignment oriented nature. Like, there's some necessary creative purpose that is bringing things together, and there's likely to be a very, very strong magnetism or magnetic component to things, people, places, situations being drawn together at this point in time, because I'm telling you guys, there is some significant like I don't know what it is, like an energetic twang, I don't know, like a specific alignment, like codes coming online, like things being unlocked. I don't know how you would want to describe it, but there is something significant that is removing blockages to growth right now on a collective level in terms, and that's being executed and carried out by way of certain things being magnetized together right now. They're fulfilling some purpose that are either like seeding, conceiving, creating, or like birthing something right now, or that are functioning to remove blockages to growth and release like a karmic like burden or bond or cycle that we've been involved with that has been preventing or maintaining blockages to growth. Growth is obviously we're in Taurus season right now. Growth is definitely like a core function of what's going on right now, and the way that things happen is probably going to be wild, okay? And like unimaginable stuff could be going on. I don't know, but very karmic moon, probably going to be a very interesting week. Some type of switch being turned on. Again, that's like another way perhaps that you could think of describing it. Metamorphosis, twist of fate, sudden and unexpected change that accelerates forward movement and momentum could come from this. Very fertile field for creative conception going on in our energy field out there. Lots of new growth being seeded here. And the masculine and the feminine dynamic within things and among things, extremely harmonized, extremely magnetized in the way that is going to produce like the most optimal outcomes, whether or not it's something that we're choosing. So to me, in my perception, this full moon has a lot to do with the facilitation of some divine alignment, some synchronized or harmonized elements that are being fused, merging, coming together, actually for the purpose of making some important connection between people, or just realizations as well. Ideas, realizations, insight could be represented here that is of a more fated or karmic significance that are somehow an important part of removing some blockage to growth or accelerating our forward growth and movement, moving forward in some probably like very different new direction with the Uranian energy that we have present alongside this full moon as well. So, and as I said, it's happening, the full moon is aligning at 22 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio. From a numerological perspective, 22, that would also be indicative perhaps of mirror images or divinely aligned counterparts being magnetized, drawn together. So I don't know. I think there's something about like soulmate connections that really could be going on here. But again, it's not about the long term with this. It's about these like pieces or these energies or these like people needing to come together because of the impact that they're going to have on each other or on events or on like some greater unfolding sequence of events that is doing something in our individual lives, but also on a greater collective level to remove blockages to growth and to help us align more with our purpose that universe is calling us to step into at this point in time. You know, on this channel, we are narrating the shift of the ages, all the astrology. We're talking about this full moon, you know, like what the energetic indications are. As we get through the report, I will also, of course, talk about likely themes that are probably going to be highlighted in terms of like our more mundane reality, the things that are probably going to come up actually in our lives and our world as a result of these energetic dynamics at play. But like on this greater cosmic level, right, we are going through a transition and shift of ages right now, and that is what we are like always keeping in the background of the analysis of astrology on this channel. We're talking about how things happen day to day, week to week, in the moment, but also the role that these various activations are playing in this greater unfolding cosmic story, this transition of ages that we're going through right now. And again, like we've been in some very condensed transitional energy as a result of some real powerful aspects that have been bridging us more tangibly forward into that new Aquarius energy over this past several months, exiting 2024, entering 2025. And 2025 really, I think, is going to be largely defined by this notion of it becoming more and more apparent that things have changed, and the concept of the Aquarian age becoming like a more perceptible and tangible concept for the collective at large, even if, you know, they're not using those exact words to describe it. We're going to start seeing inklings of that rooting themselves into our 3D physical reality. And aspects like this, full moons like this, energetic setups like this are doing that, are foundational in that, are altering our personal vibrations in such a way that we are altering our behavior in such a way that is actually reverberating and resonating more with these new energies that are coming in that are the representation of this Aquarian age, you know, rooting itself in our reality. So we're actually doing that. You know, we actually create the transition through the changes that we make based on the changes happening within us as we recalibrate to the new frequencies that are coming in. And this is, again, like another quite significant, I would say, activation point in that regard. And it's going to be hitting on, I feel like, some very deep psychological subconscious levels. We've got a lot, as I said, we are just getting started in this report, you guys. We got a lot to get into, but this is also, there's an element and dimension of this energy that is super like emphasizing like the psychic detective, like having almost like an x-ray vision into the depths of our own psyche and being able to maybe come to a point of release or purging out some of maybe, you know, our own shadow side issues that perhaps have had power over us and our behaviors and our actions and what the choices that we've made for ourselves and stuff like that in the past. And now that we are gaining a greater awareness maybe of some of this stuff, taking that power back and moving forward, like beginning to make choices from a more like consciously aware place and less based in subconscious programming that is triggering our reactions and responses to things. Again, this goes back to it being also a black moon, full moon, which would be, you know, maybe triggering some of those shadow side issues to help us gain that awareness. And the Scorpio, you know, that's the depths and the like the core root issues of things. And then we also have the Mercury Pluto square. Mercury is the mind, what we're talking about, what we're thinking about. This is exact when we have the full moon coming, you know, into alignment, and Mercury square Pluto. We'll talk about this more as we get through the report, but that is also an energy that, you know, it can be a difficult energy, but it also can be like a deeply, deeply insightful and mentally transformative energy if we can kind of come to terms with what we are discovering and figuring out may have been, you know, creeping around in the darkness or hiding in the shadows or just like under the surface of things. So this, again, like it's likely to be a deeply transformative period of time. There could be real serious changes actually going on within like our deeper subconscious mind. And a lot of people could be gaining awareness maybe of some of these shadow issues that have held power over them and taking that power back. Again, we do have a strong emphasis here on slaying demons or overcoming or taking power back from the things that have held power over us in the past so that we can kind of redirect consciously the way that things are going to go going forward, which again, if we pull it out and apply that to this greater unfolding story, that would be exactly what would be required as a transitional component of moving into an energy such as the age of Aquarius, which is the age of self-awareness. This is the age of self-knowledge. This is all about information, understanding, expanding our cosmic awareness. I mean, it's called the Great Awakening, right? So in that regard, it would make sense that we would have a Scorpio full moon playing out right now that would be bringing exactly that type of energy in for us, okay? So I do think that this is another sort of like episode of universe functioning to put things right. Okay, we've got the full moon conjunct and opposite Uranus. Uranus is the galactic fixer. Uranus is known for making changes for us that perhaps we haven't been able to make for ourselves. And this is an energy that puts things right. Maybe not from our perspective, maybe not exactly as we would choose to do it, but always on the higher level, it is what is best. And this is always an energy that brings silver linings, blessings in disguise. Once you get down the road a bit after, you know, things settle and the dust clears and everything, it's like we realize, oh yes, I wouldn't have picked that for myself. I never could have done that. I never would have chosen that. I would never want to do it again. However, I understand why that had to happen like that. I accept that it did, and at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't take it back. I'm grateful that it happened because now things are in a position that actually makes everything better somehow moving forward. That's the Uranian dynamic. This is the lightning striking the tower card, but ultimately it is doing something to, in the sign of Taurus, remove blockages to growth so that we can get into a better alignment with the expression of our potential and therefore a much more like fulfilling experience of life, reality, relationships, work, whatever it is that is being worked on right now through the way that this energy is coming together. Figure out, you know, this is a Taurus Scorpio full moon. The houses that you have Taurus and Scorpio in your chart are highlighted right now. If you have planets around, you know, between 20 and 30 degrees, really though, closer to 25 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio, you are all in this. I mean, the full moon is happening, as I said, at 22 degrees Taurus and Scorpio. So if you got planets at 22 degrees fixed signs, you are in this exactly by conjunction and opposition. Uranus right now is at 27 degrees of Taurus. So we got a 4-degree orb between those planets, and that's why I'm saying also, you know, if you've got planets around 25 degrees, you are real close to the moon, you are real close to Uranus, and you are probably feeling this the most. But also if you have planets around between 20 and 30 degrees of Virgo or Pisces, you are being quite implicated by the nodes right now, and you're probably also going through some major life changes. If you have planets around between 5 and 10 degrees also of fire signs, that's where Venus and Mars are. You guys may be having some very interesting relationship situations coming into your life over the next couple of days. Or this is also like a super creative energy. You might just find yourself very like creatively stimulated somehow, or, you know, starting something new, or very inspired, very passionate to pursue something. Those are kind of the degree ranges that we are looking at here. So just to hit on the Venus Mars again before we move on, I do think, because that is a primary dynamic here, we are talking about a Taurus Scorpio full moon ruled by Venus and Mars. Rulership is important when we are trying to figure out the astrology language, and at least to me it is. And I would say that the fact that Venus and Mars are so harmoniously involved with each other during this full moon at 22 degrees is quite indicative of soul connections and alignments coming in. But again, I feel like it's about some job that needs to be done, or like how the nature of these connections help us to grow or move forward or resolve or release like some karmic situation. Maybe these are like fated connections, maybe to help us let go or move on from something, maybe to help us transition into something else, maybe to, you know, shine light on something, or bring some idea, or lead to some other connection, or to accomplish some task or job or purpose. But I just don't necessarily see a whole lot of permanency with this. Okay, it's like I feel like universe is like putting teams together right now in a way that are gonna be like picking teams and like putting people together in a way that is most conducive to some like greater cosmic goal that is simultaneously underway. So that being said, therefore, I think that it would probably be of some benefit to be open as we especially hit the energy of Monday, but moving through this next couple of weeks, to people that you just seem to like organically or synchronistically be aligning with somehow. Like even if you don't understand why, or it doesn't make sense to you, like why do I keep running into this person, or you know, what's the deal with this individual? Every man is a golden link in the chain of my good. That's one of my favorite Florence Scovel Shinn quotes. I find a lot of value in that, and I think it's extra relevant in the energy of this week. These connections are not without some higher purpose. I feel like it's safe to say that, even if it's not obvious to us in the moment, these are like gears aligning properly to create some greater movement or momentum or outcome. So be open and pay attention. Also be observant, be open, pay attention to just things that seem to be connecting this week. Okay, so let's talk about the other transits now. As I said, you know, pretty much every transit is aspecting somehow in the context of this full moon dynamic that we have setting up. Therefore, it's probably going to be a very busy week. There's probably a lot happening, a lot going on, a lot of, again, like maybe pieces coming together, places to be, things to do. I just think it's probably going to be a busy week. You might feel a bit pulled in many different directions, again, with that Jupiter nodal nodal square going on. And also, this is probably a high energy week. As I mentioned earlier, we've got the full moon, which is an energetic peak each month, and we've also got Jupiter squaring the north node and the south node, which probably is going to be expanding energy levels as well. So wow, it's a good week to have a lot going on because we're probably going to have the energy to keep up with it. But again, like, don't think that you can take this energy, like this like energetic blueprint, thumbprint that we've got going on this week and apply it to some later point, you know, maybe like 3 weeks or a month from now, and think that you're still going to have the same like aptitude then to do stuff like that as you do now, because like this is the moment that it's meant for, not a future moment. Just something that is very I don't know, it just keeps coming to me over and over again. Like, we need to be in the moment with this energy and not try to project it into the future, because it's about what's taking place in the present. And it's important what's taking place in the present, but it's just, I don't think it's like meant to be all that lasting. So we've got Venus and Mars, we've got Uranus, we've got the nodes. We also have a very strong Chiron influence that is going on with this full moon. As I mentioned earlier, Mercury is exactly at the Chiron point, 3 degrees of Taurus. That's the point in the sky where Chiron was originally discovered. Holds a lot and mostly all of the same like energetic dynamics, archetypes, as Chiron himself. So we've got the Mercury Chiron influence going on and square to Pluto, and then we also have Chiron in a sextile to Jupiter in the sign of Aries. Of course, Jupiter is in Gemini right now, so that is emphasizing the Chiron element of things, which is also about karma, breaking karmic cycles, personal like alchemization and transmutation, overcoming previous states of victimhood and transcending into states of self-mastery that enable us to self-actualize and take back a conscious control over our lives and experiences. It's the hero's journey archetype when we're dealing with Chiron energy. And again, like, these themes of taking power back from things that have held power over us previously, maybe through wisdom gained through experience or some sense of personal transmutation and alchemization or metamorphosis. It's interesting. I meant to tell you guys this earlier as well, and I skipped over it in my notes because I got caught up in a tangent that was just like coming out, and I didn't want to, you know, go back and reiterate all of that I had like written previously. Anyways, the Sabian symbol of the position of the moon, which I wanted to tell you guys, 23 degrees of the sign of Scorpio. Now remember, when we are looking at Sabian symbols, when we're referencing a symbolic degree placement, we're going to round up in terms of the degree that we are looking at, because we want to consider the wave of energy that is coming in, that is expressing, that is manifesting, not the wave of energy that is waning out, that is dissipating, and that has the peak of it has passed. So whenever we are, you know, this, as I said, this full moon is happening at 22 degrees, 12 minutes of Taurus and Scorpio. We are going to reference the 23rd degree of Taurus and Scorpio for the symbolic degree placement, just because that's the way that we read the energy. So 23 degrees of Scorpio, therefore, where the Sabian symbol is placed associated with this moon, is a bunny metamorphosed into a fairy. That obviously is, to me, it gives a lot of Chiron energy. It's about alchemizing this base ego or base instinct into a state of personal power or self-mastery. And then there's this, you know, air of our element of magic that's involved in this symbolism to me as well, which I feel like is very descriptive of the energetic setup that we have just generally, the way that our chart is laying out for us with this full moon. We also have the sun at 23 degrees of Taurus. That Sabian symbol is a jewelry shop filled with valuable gems. There is something very, very valuable about the experiences playing out and you know, what we're gaining as we move through this process. And then remember, as I said, Mercury in the sign of Taurus at the Chiron point. That Sabian symbol is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So tons of emphasis on value, metamorphosis, growth, transformation. and also this like air of magic and this magnetism and this divine intervention that we have going on as well. So it is there's again, keeps to me, for me, coming back to this concept of overcoming something within ourselves perhaps that has held us back in the past, or finally graduating from something, finally being at the end of something, on the precipice, on the brink of some rebirth, starting something new, conceiving of something that is going to, you know, redefine the direction of our future perhaps, and very, very based in maybe some deep core fundamental transformations, transmutation, again, like alchemy, transmutation. These are all very Chiron oriented themes, and Chiron is an element also of our full moon chart. So I'm seeing that. I'm also seeing, as I, you know, mentioned briefly a minute ago, this prominent Jupiterian energy as well. Jupiter in square to the nodes. This is supersizing things. This is energizing things. This is expanding our vision. This is bringing opportunities. And this is also bringing things to kind of like a crossroad. And then with the Uranian element is that with the Uranian element there, and the nodes also being aspected by the moon, I'm just thinking some type of benefic or beneficial stroke of luck, twist or turn of fate, change of circumstances that we weren't expecting, but that like unlocks things somehow, or that helps us move forward, or that brings something that like I don't know, like stimulates our creativity, or is like a divine counterpart or something like that. These are the themes that I just feel like are like continuously being presented here. And then of course we've got the shadow side, plutonic energy of it as well, and conquering or overcoming, you know, that thing maybe within us, or that has been an element of our experience somehow that has been holding us back, holding us captive, or just like diminishing our ability to grow in alignment with the, you know, truth of our potential. That is also something that should be becoming more apparent to us right now as well, because now as we pull it back out and reconsider the larger cosmic story transitioning us into the age of Aquarius, that is another primary necessity for that transition to take place. We have to collectively over time come like humanity has to actualize, you know what I mean? Like we have to start like living our authentic purposes, detached from whatever role in the matrix we've been essentially like taught and programmed to play, which is a, you know, a whole nother story. And you know, the fact that the greater overall transition is often referenced as the Great Awakening, I think gives heed to this concept in many ways. But as I said, you know, that's a discussion for a different day and a different time. This full moon, though, it is orienting us, I think, in that direction of uncovering, getting to the root of, discovering, aligning with things that are moving us in that direction, or that are removing like things in our lives that perhaps have prevented us from being able to take steps in that direction in the past. Okay, I do think that there is a greater energetic push and intertwined in all of this, embedded in all of this, that is about this karmic liberation, helping us to break through cycles that have kind of had a hold on the collective of humanity on a karmic level that is, you know, that has been persisting throughout perhaps the last 2,000 years and beyond, throughout the entire last age of Pisces. You know, as you transition obviously from age to age, this is going to require a release of the karma associated with the previous age in order to truly step into the energy of the incoming age. And so again, like with all these nodal transits and activations right now, and you know, just all these energetic dynamics and setups, and like not just now, I've been watching this transpire over the course of the past several years. Okay, so it's not just like, oh, we've arrived at today and now we've got this going on and it's going to be like this instantaneous thing. It's been a very accumulating process. I think actually probably over the course of the past couple hundred years, but this past few years, especially I think since around like, I would say like 2019, 2020-ish, have been very, very impactful, kind of systematically, repeatedly in laying some foundations that again are going to become apparent now and moving through 2025 and 2026, that something has changed, and that it could be described as a paradigm shift, even if those are not the specific words that are being utilized. The greater collective is going to begin to realize that just things have changed and things aren't working the same anymore. Patterns are changing. Old systems and approaches and like techniques are not going to be as supported as they once were. And it's going to become, as I said, I think more obvious to us as we begin to move forward now and into the future. Now, another element of our full moon chart, lovely full moon chart that we've got going on, is the Uranus-Algol conjunction. This is something that I've been talking about. A lot of astrologers have been talking about it for a while now. There is this fixed star out there called Algol. This is an ancient fixed star. It's known as the Medusa star, and it gives connotations, you know, it tends to reference decapitation or the beheading of something. You know, people losing their minds can also be metaphoric for this energy, or like just kind of being out for blood generally. And we've also got a Mercury-Pluto square. Mercury, it rules the mind and the head as well. People could, there could be an element here of like people losing their mind, or there could be actually some like collective highlighted theme having to do with the decapitation or the beheading, like off with their heads, slaying, pursuit of something. But as I said earlier, and I've just been like repeating and repeating throughout this report, I actually think it's more indicative of people maybe confronting their own darker nature and maybe gaining a greater sense of power or control over their dark side, taking back personal power, having to do with like slaying the beast or slaying the demon in a way that is healing, transformative, self-empowering. Okay, like taking the power back from a dark side maybe within us that we are gaining an awareness of, transmuting old traumas or karmic bonds associated with them. This is also a period of time that is breaking generational karma. As I said, we can't move fully into a new age if we are carrying persisting generational karma that has characterized the previous age. So I do not think that karmic patterns generationally are going to continue to persist here. I think this new energetic lineage that is coming in now is going to be very involved in breaking karmic cycles that maybe have defined, you know, family lines or just generations, or also on a more collective level, the way that we have perceived reality actually throughout this past paradigm, the past 2,000 years, and therefore, you know, largely our recorded history. I think this moon is just sort of another nail in the coffin to bring in some nice Scorpio, Pluto, black moon vibes for or of lingering generational karma plaguing the collective of humanity that is being carried over from the last age of Pisces. And as you guys also know, we have Saturn currently transiting the sign of Pisces. The full moon and Jupiter are also therefore both aspecting Saturn, although the orb is 6 degrees. Saturn is at 28 degrees, and as I said, the moon is happening at 22 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus. So more close, definitely closer, and more and having a greater being more impacted by the connection to the nodes. But Saturn is still also in, you know, a 6-degree orb. Like, it's a pretty, you know, close connection. And Saturn's also the lord of karma, the lord of time, in the sign of Pisces. To me, in this particular energetic setup, is bringing to an end the systems of belief and control that have defined the past paradigm. We're talking about an exit from the age of Pisces. We're talking about Saturn and the North Node both being in the sign of Pisces, spiritual growth perhaps also being indicated here that is breaking down the boundaries that have established our belief systems and like perception of reality in and through and coming down the age of Pisces. So all of that type of stuff going on here. And then of course with Uranus and the nodes featured so prominently, like this is the galactic fixer, karma and destiny at work. So some sudden awakening, sudden shift, sudden change that could really be breaking down our own personal paradigm somehow and like really shifting the way that we are perceiving reality, perceiving ourselves. Beliefs could be in definite flux moving through this period of time also. But I do want to give you guys sort of a list or a rundown of the kind of more mundane themes and just things that are likely to be highlighted in this energy as a result of all of this that we have going on. Primarily, you know, we are dealing with Taurus, Scorpio energy. This could have to do with value, obviously, is very, very indicated here. We've got Taurus that has all to do with value and worth, and also Chiron, very highlighted to do with value and worth. Remember, the sun is at a jewelry shop filled with literally valuable gems, like verbatim. And then we also have Mercury in Taurus at the Chiron point, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There could be a strong emphasis on value, money, finances, resources, assets, property, like stuff like that. Like, I don't know, our assets, like what we're holding on to, what we find worth and value in, that could be, you know, something that is strongly emphasized as we move through this week. But it could also have to just do generally with like projects, land, food, agriculture, currency, and the value of money and stuff like that. Partnerships, obviously, as I said, there's a huge significance on partnerships and the right people coming together to support each other's processes of growth somehow that has some greater purpose going on right now. Agreements, also like debt and stuff like that could be relevant. Connections to others, though, also things that have been hidden. We've got all the shadow side, underworld, like dark side of the energy stuff going on, things that have been hidden, secretive being revealed, unknown or, you know, withheld power sources could have some relevance right now also with the Pluto Aquarius element of things here. Newly unleashed innovation, science, or technology. There could be like technological releases or advances that are quite, I don't know, like mind-blowing or shocking or something like that, that are introduced during an energy like this. Spiritual experiences, as I said earlier, also, I would not be surprised if there are some profound spiritual experiences going on, spiritual awakenings happening, spiritual phenomena, like with the moon in Scorpio trining the North Node in Pisces. North Node in Pisces, this is a year and a half. I've been saying it over and over. I'll continue to say it. This is a year and a half about spiritual growth. When we get to the end of whatever we go through between the time when the North Node entered Pisces and the time when the North Node leaves Pisces, it will leave behind an imprint of spiritual growth on us somehow as a result of whatever these, you know, situations are bringing into our lives, whatever we're going through during this particular transit. So I wouldn't be surprised if this moon is somehow introducing or involved in that. Also, this could be bringing up things to do with loss, things to do with letting go, things to do with moving on, and final endings. Again, this karmic release, very strong theme here also. And lastly, and I've been talking about this as well, there is a very prominent like cosmic support right now for any type of lifestyle changes, like changing the way that we do life on the day-to-day, on a day-to-day basis, habits, routines, schedules, the systems that we have in place as well, like what we're actually doing on the daily, how we are caring for ourselves and others, what we're eating, what we're consuming, what we're doing for work. There could be something that is very variable in that regard. This is an excellent time, you guys, for making lifestyle changes and upgrades that make us healthier, make us happier, free up time and energy. Like, this is the time to reorganize your life. You will be very supported in that endeavor if you so make that choice to do that in this energy. How we are feeling about things, though, is likely to be at the root of the changes that are taking place. How we are feeling, impacting how we are thinking, and impacting what we are doing as a result. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that is how these new frequencies coming in right now are also ushering in the age of Aquarius through anchoring themselves in the collective of humanity as well. We are responding. We are like these little antenna, right, in our brains. It's firing these synapses that are perceiving the electric signals essentially coming from the various energy fields and, you know, the frequencies and the planetary activity that's going on in our ether around us. And we are perceiving these signals that are coming in. They are impacting us on obviously a vibratory and emotional level, and then as a result of that, altering the way that we are thinking and behaving, and as a result of that, changing the way that we're doing things. And that is, I feel like, the process, you know, that's kind of, I think, how things work. That's how astrology works. But in this case, that is, to me, the process that this transition of ages is you know, utilizing to be birthed also. We are changing, the world is changing. This Mercury-Pluto square, as I've already referenced a couple of times, is excellent for gaining insight into our own deeper nature in order to actually become re-empowered, remove blockages to growth. It's all fitting together. Mercury square Pluto, that's the psychic detective. This is really good for like occult study, mentally penetrating into the hidden dimensions and depths of things, but it can make people obsessive. It can have like obsessive compulsive thoughts that go along with it. It can bring up like coercive tendencies as well, manipulative tendencies, and a desire kind of to force our views and opinions on others. So you want to watch that tendency. This can also bring like ruthless verbal assaults that can go on. We've got a Mercury square Pluto, and we can be, again, just like more focused on the darker side of things. But with all this other energy, again, it's like gaining an awareness of that darkness in a way that helps us to overcome and release whatever it is that maybe we have subconsciously or unconsciously or consciously even been held captive to or of or by in the past somehow, be it, you know, whether it be like something small or something that has been like entirely life defining. Mercury at the Chiron point as well. Like, there is something of tremendous value that we gain through what we uncover and figure out. Like, finally, some healing or making it through that difficult cycle that may have held us in a state of like suspended animation, or just like prevented us from going through whatever phase of growth we are called into right now until this period of time. Again, it's like graduation type of energy, something painful or difficult that we have been enduring through coming to an end, and you know, that being realized, that being healed, that being released, especially probably in terms of maybe our own self-concept, with Chiron being the sign of Aries, the sign of the self right now. Lastly, also this Jupiterian dynamic. I know I've touched on this quite a bit already, but I just kind of wanted to isolate it and talk about it for a minute. Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini in a tight square to the nodes, and also Saturn, but Saturn more distanced orb, the nodes a tighter orb, while we have the trine and sextile to the nodes of the moon by both Uranus and the full moon. So more nodal emphasis, but by way of Jupiter here, we've got nodes being activated multiple ways by Uranus, by the full moon, by Jupiter. But again, like all of these, that combination, like Uranus and Jupiter, to me, Uranus is a very destabilizing energy, right? And in the sign of Taurus, this brings upsets, this shakes foundations, this definitely like disturbs the comfort zone, okay? When we've got like, there's a lack of inner peace going on. We've got a full moon opposite Uranus, especially when Uranus is in Venus sign of Taurus, and also Uranus being at Algol. But when Uranus energy is fused with Jupiter energy, or we've got both Uranus and Jupiter simultaneously playing into the destiny points, I always feel like this brings like positive changes, positive shifts. Like this really puts the silver in the silver lining. You know what I mean? Like this really puts the blessing in the blessing in disguise when we're talking about Jupiter and Uranus. Like to me, this combination can be and can bring like magical type, divine intervention type experiences and like situations and things that just like you never could have imagined could have happened. You never would have thought that. You never would have anticipated that. And like the fact that it's happening just seems divinely orchestrated. Like that can be the vibe when we have Jupiter and Uranus together, and the fact that they're both pressing on the nodes when we've got this moon going on. I just feel like there could be some like miraculous things that could be associated with whatever's going on. However, you know, this is also like the truth will set you free energy. Uranus and Jupiter both have a lot to do with this like need for freedom, need for expansion, need for like no restraints here. So it could be perhaps some uncomfortable but fated, you know, situation or meeting or information that comes in, but it's going to lead to some probably type of blessed growth or change somehow. Again, as I mentioned earlier, really the only red flag with this type of energy is not to get too carried away. You know, keep your wits about you. Another sometimes failure of a prominent Jupiter energy, especially, you know, when we're dealing with a mutable square and Pisces and Virgo where the nodes are. Pay attention to details, okay? Like pay attention to the fine print. Don't get so caught up in the expansive vision that there's just like practical like details and things that are overlooked that can cause nothing to be able to work or come into fruition. As I said earlier, like this energy can make us feel very limitless, like we know it all, or like we can do it all, or like we can do no wrong. And again, perhaps we are, and perhaps we can, and perhaps that is actually an accurate assessment of our aptitude this week in this energy. But I don't think it's about permanency. In some cases it may be, of course, like nothing always applies to everything, but as a general rule here, I feel like this is energy for the moment. This is not about something lasting or permanent. It's about things coming together at this time in this place to produce a certain effect or a certain outcome or facilitate the unfolding of some certain destiny or divinely orchestrated sequence of events that moves things forward somehow, that removes blockages to growth, that moves things forward. So I think more so, I mean, this is always, you know, the generic rule of thumb, live in the moment, right? But like living in the moment, perhaps in a more conscious way, and the energy of Monday for sure, and just this week generally, and like taking things as they come, enjoying them for what they are while they last, but not assigning some permanent function to them or some sense of like expectation that they're going to persist, trying to hold on to them too tight. I don't think that's the way that we want to navigate some of this, you know, maybe unusual or unexpected stuff that could be going on this week. However, you know, I do believe, and I will continue to say probably many, many times in the rest of my videos this week, the value of what goes on during the energy as it plays out this week. I really don't think it can be understated. This is likely to be a powerful, transformative, unusual, and perhaps a bit magical week. And I do think ultimately, like if I could encapsulate it all into just like one little nugget, this is a great time to change or upgrade your life in meaningful ways. Detox, purge, regeneration, open-mindedness, self-analysis, introspection, being willing to, you know, look at your own issues and make changes that actually help you to overcome them, taking power back in a way that allows you to be more consciously creative of what's playing out in your life moving forward. And also this very, very interesting relational component to the things as well with the Venus-Mars dynamic. Counterparts coming together here. You know, it could reference romantic relationships, but it doesn't have to. Again, like this is like the like individuals or situations or alignments taking place that are supportive of a necessary phase of growth that the other is going through, while that other is mutually like beneficial in that same regard. So I don't know, you guys, that's what I have to say. That's how I'm seeing it. All of this energy going on, as I said, like every planet is making aspect. Neptune is like the only planet I haven't spoken of, and Neptune is in a sextile to Pluto, Aries and Aquarius, and that is also changing the collective vision, transforming the collective vision of the future, essentially, if we're going to put it in a nutshell. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. I feel like it's a pretty profound energetic imprint that we've got coming through with our Scorpio moon. This week, as I said, is probably going to be unusual in some way. Be open to like strange or just random connections that are happening and taking place, even regardless of their perceived significance. There is this order or air of divine alignment that is a function for sure of the way that this chart is coming together and how this energy is speaking. So yeah, that's where we're at, you guys. The bunny metamorphosed into a fairy. Like, it is a time of alchemy, you know, alchemy, transmutation. The bunny, this would be, you know, the more like obviously like animalistic, instinct based, you know, perhaps even like fear based nature. Metamorphosed into a fairy is the even like, you know, the evolution even of the human energy. This is where we have the fairy in, you know, any type of lore would have more supernatural powers and stuff like that. And really, I think as we move into the age of Aquarius over the next 2,000 years, I bet you if we took like, if there was a way to take a snapshot of the future 2,000 years from now and project it somehow into this current moment, I bet the normal state of like the average human at that point in time would appear quite superhuman in the context of our current state now, as we are ascending out of this age of Pisces, which has also been we're also ascending out of a darker age of humanity right now, a Kali Yuga, where we have been more detached from the emanations of the galactic center. As we move into the age of Aquarius, this cycle around, we also are ascending into a new golden age that's going to come into fruition over the next 10,000 years as humanity comes and our planet comes back into greater contact with the emanations of the galactic center that do also obviously really implicate the way that our brains are working and the way that our energy fields are comprised, I guess we could say, also, because that is like the pure source of galactic energy. That is the life force energy that in the conscious field of consciousness, essentially, that from my understanding at least powers all of life, basically. So we're going in a positive direction, even if there are some forward momentum and some steps backwards along that path. We are headed into the light, you guys, and this full moon, I think, is helping us to release, you know, in a collective way, elements of, you know, the lingering darkness that have that need to go as we go in that direction. So that's what I'm gonna say, you guys. I am going to get us a synchronicity card now, get us one final piece of guidance or advice from God's Spirit Universe. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind as we're opening our week, moving through the week, moving through the day? What should we remind ourselves? What should we tell ourselves? What is our guidance for this time? And it says, keep the faith, you guys. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalms 23:1. God is within you and watching over you. You will see evidence of this fact in your life very soon if you cannot see it this very second. Go on forward with confidence. Everything is working together for your good right now. Amen, you guys. That literally is the memo here. As I've been saying, like, things are happening that are probably beyond our control, but that are of a divinely oriented nature. There could be some profound spiritual experiences or phenomenon going on. The hand of God is like very specifically involved in the things that are coming to pass right now. This card is saying it. Keep the faith. I've been talking, I was saying, like, you know, things could be playing out that seem as though there's no other explanation other than perhaps some type of divine intervention. This is literally saying, like, God is within you and watching over you. You will see evidence of this fact in your life very soon. If you can't see it already, go forward with confidence. This is all about removing blockages to growth so that we can move forward with something. Everything is working together for your good right now, and that's what Uranus does. Uranus is the galactic fixer. Uranus puts things right. We've got the nodes there. You guys, I'm telling you, like, some type of twists or turns or fate or event or strokes of luck or good fortune. I don't know what it is. And it may not even present, we're talking about Uranus et al. Goal, like, it could be some, like, more dark or ugly things that happen or that are highlighted as a part of this, but, like, where it's going, no matter what happens right now, it seems quite obvious. Like, where it's going is, it's for the best somehow, and there's this divine alignment coming in that is somehow meant to support that process. So that's what I'm gonna say, you guys. That's what I think about the way energy is presenting and speaking to me in the context of our full moon that we've got going on. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy or appreciate or be entertained by this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, let me know what's going on with you guys out there. I really very much value and appreciate when you fill me in, especially if you are having experiences that align with what I'm talking about in these videos. Drop it in my comment section below. Let me know if you are, you know, experiencing things like this in your own life. And if you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards. You can find that in my description box below as well. And come back with me, you guys. Come back with me on Wednesday. I'm back on my normal recording schedule. We will have Wednesday and Friday videos this week. Wednesday, we will be catching back up. We will be picking up where we left off on this video, and you don't want to miss it. We got a lot more astrology coming at us this week. Again, Jupiter squaring the nodes. We've got... we'll get into it on Wednesday, but this is an unusual week of some divine alignments, and you should come back with me because we got a lot more to say about it. So I will see you then, guys. Have a beautiful introduction start to your week. Have a beautiful full moon, and until next time, bye, guys.